Back to another video. Today I'm going to be talking about the Supreme Court and victories that Republicans have received, consecutive victories, day after day of Supreme Court victories and political victories in general, but most of these are related to the Supreme Court that they have had, and just the continuation of how, as I have portrayed and as I have stated multiple times in the past, that the momentum is on the Republican side as we head into the midterm elections. For people who think I'm going to say that Roe v. Wade is going to drastically reduce Republicans' chances of taking back the Senate or even the House of Representatives, I'm not going to say that. I don't believe that is true. If Roe v. Wade does have an effect, overturning it, I do actually think it could be favorable to the Republicans, depending on how things change. We're already seeing the politics being in many ways what you would say politics being or culture being downstream of politics, where the politics is actually affecting the culture in the polls. We had a Morning Consult poll that said that 50% of Americans disagreed with Roe v. Wade being overturned, 40% agreed. But when you compare that to the previous polls that were just conducted a few months ago, over 70% of Americans, were opposed to Roe v. Wade being overturned. So that's drastically decreased. And you're seeing that, and you're going to be seeing this throughout many Supreme Court cases coming up. There are still a few more important cases in the docket this year that many, I don't even know what you would call them, court watchers, I guess you would call them SCOTUS watchers, are waiting to hear. But what we have are we already have mainly the biggest decisions that are expected from the Supreme Court. So let's just start off with the first decision. Now, I'm not exactly on this link, and I'm not going to move my link or where we are recording at the moment, but the biggest decision, or the not the biggest, but the oldest decision that we have was the Supreme Court's decision to end the New York gun law that they had in place. It basically prevented people from carrying weapons unless they had probable cause to do so. The Supreme Court said that that law was unconstitutional and that they do not need probable cause to carry a weapon, and that based off of the Second Amendment, saying that people have the right to keep and bear arms, bear meaning carry, that law was unconstitutional. And yeah, that was the first major victory of the Republicans in the Supreme Court at that time. Now, that was only the beginning, but when that happened, that was reversing what would have been considered New York law for over a decade. I mean, that was significant New York precedent, a New York law, Republican Supreme Court, not Republican Supreme Court, but the Supreme Court reverting that. And the Supreme Court is a vastly different Supreme Court than what we have seen in the past. I know a lot of people like this court a lot more, and a lot of people are upset with this court, but it's a different court, and it still is the legitimate Supreme Court of the United States. I know people try to delegitimize the rulings of the Supreme Court. That's just not. It is the Supreme Court. You can't do that, but it's a different Supreme Court. And then, obviously, what we had 2 days after that was Roe v. Wade, overturned by the Supreme Court of the United States. That means that abortion is no longer forced to be legal up until viability. So a lot of Roe v. Wade was actually, I guess what you would say, overturned by Planned Parenthood v. Casey. However, Planned Parenthood v. Casey still upheld the main underlying decision in Roe, which allowed, or in some sense, forced abortion to be legal in some form nationwide, but it forced that to viability, which basically meant when you could take the baby out and it would survive on its own with medical help still, then you could not abort your child at that point, and that was 15 weeks. But now that has been completely overturned, and each state now has the ability to legislate abortion as they please. So we have many abortion trigger laws that have already gone into effect. Many states across the country are now trying to restrict abortion, such as in Virginia with Glenn Youngkin. I do assume that Ron DeSantis in Florida will put forth an even stricter abortion law, and we will see what happens. But the Roe v. Wade decision is probably the biggest Supreme Court decision you could argue in the history of the Supreme Court when you talk about things. It's the Dobbs decision. Now it will be referred to as the new abortion precedent will be the Dobbs versus Jackson Women's Health. This Supreme Court case. Obviously, this will be taught in law schools going forward. It's definitely one of the top 5, 10 Supreme Court cases of all time, and a major victory for Republicans. And this is just mainly the point of this video is highlighting the immense Supreme Court victories that Republicans have had and general political victories. First is a victory within the Second Amendment, the right to keep and bear arms, and now a victory with regards to abortion, what Republicans would call the right to life. Following that, 2 days after the Roe v. Wade overruling and Dobbs v. Jackson Women's Health, we received a ruling from the Supreme Court in the Kennedy case, which allowed, which gave now, this is now towards the First Amendment, gave a football coach, high school football coach, the right to pray privately at midfield after football games. The school fired him for doing so. They said that it was not in his liberty to do so, and the Supreme Court has overturned that on First Amendment grounds. So another major win for Republicans. I'm trying to explain the different arguments. I'm pretty sure the liberal argument was that the coach was enticing people into a certain corner, and he was ostracized. It wasn't ostracizing, but there was like ins and outs of groups, and the prayer group that people participated in was something that was considered important to be a part of, and that went against the separation of church and state. And that was the liberal side, and then the conservative side was saying that the coach had the right to pray at midfield due to his religious liberty guaranteed in the First Amendment, the freedom to practice your religion openly and freely. And, those were the two arguments, and the conservative argument won out. The coach is now able to, I don't know if he's still hired or not, but he would be able to kneel and pray at midfield. And then we've had some more important Supreme Court decisions. This one coming out of Louisiana, the Supreme Court revised Republican-drawn voting map in Louisiana. Basically, this was Louisiana got rid of a district that was meant to, I'm pretty sure, create like an all-black district. And it went to the lower courts. They said that it was against the Voting Rights Act, so they rejected Louisiana. They said that they could not create that they could not block that congressional district. The Supreme Court has overturned that. So this is just another Supreme Court victory from the Republicans' angle. And, I'm just going over, and the whole point of this video was really to go over Republican victories in the Supreme Court. Think about this. If Ruth Bader Ginsburg had not decided, or Ruth Bader Ginsburg had decided to retire from the Supreme Court prior to the Republicans taking back the Senate, we would be looking at a very different Supreme Court and very different decisions coming out of the Supreme Court. Because Amy Coney Barrett, if she was not on the court, and if it was Merrick Garland or somebody else, things would be looking different. If you look back and say, well, if Mitch McConnell decided not to hold up Antonin Scalia's seat back in 2015, 2016, we would be looking at a very different Supreme Court at the moment. When you look back at Brett Kavanaugh, and if the Republicans decided to cave and not confirm Brett Kavanaugh to the Supreme Court, you would be looking at a different decision as well. I can guarantee that to you, because John Roberts did not vote in favor of overturning Roe v. Wade. So Republicans definitely should give credit to Donald Trump, because he nominated judges that have relatively given them significant Supreme Court victories. We expect to have many more Republican victories. If many other Supreme Court cases that have been kind of, considered Supreme Court precedent, but not, incredible precedent. This is just what's considered important, I guess. But if cases such as Obergefell were overturned, if cases such as Griswold were overturned, and that's what Clarence Thomas indicated in his own, I believe it's his own, section of the majority, or his own, I don't even know what you call it when they add on to the majority of the opinion, or they put on their own opinion. That's what he said. They should consider other precedents that had the pretext and explanation as to why Roe was created in their own, decision of those cases. But anyway, that's really all that I have for you today. Let me know in the comments your thoughts on these recent victories for the Republicans in the Supreme Court. This, in my mind, only continues to cement the fact that they have the momentum on their side. If they manage to lose at this point, they will be, in my mind, clutching defeat from the jaws of victory. Republicans are on track to win the election in 2022 in a few months, and the momentum is with them. But let me know what you think of these Supreme Court cases, I guess personally, and how you think it will affect elections. Thank you for watching the video. Make sure to subscribe to the YouTube channel and stay tuned for more videos. Have a great day.